Namaste. Thanks for joining me. I wanted to take a little moment just to address a behavior that's called people pleasing. And if you're listening to this, most likely you understand on some level what that might feel like or what that is. Um, People pleasers, which I am continue to work on moving away from. People pleasing is about going outside of ourselves in order to try to feel worthy of being us. And a lot of us have been taught this. It's not something that we just all of a sudden started. Usually, our parents or whoever raised us, either they were people pleasers and that was modeled to us, or we were in some way rewarded, most likely very subconsciously, for putting others in front of ourselves. And even more so culturally, as a woman, that tends to be rewarded. If you grew up having one of your primary caregivers being sick, this might also be something that happens as well, that you were conditioned to. And so I don't want to label it as good or bad, but I've noticed for me in my life, and the reason why I started working on trying to change that pattern is I kept feeling so guilty for taking time for myself, constantly planning things for myself, just things, just basic things like, exercise or doing something fun that I enjoyed. And then something would come up with someone else, a friend or family member, something at work, and I would immediately be like, oh yeah, I can let that go and focus on that. The thing is that over time, that's not sustainable. I wasn't doing anything to fill up my cup. And so what I mean by that is I truly believe that all of us have a cup of energy. It's not infinite. If it was, most of us would not have a lot of the issues that we have. But it's infinite. We're humans. We only have a certain amount that we energy to be able to give to others. And if we're not doing things to refill that cup, the that energy lowers and lowers and lowers till we hit rock bottom. And that's usually then when we're really not dealing with life stressors well at all, reacting so much more. And so that's the thing with this pattern of people pleasing, is that if you're constantly giving and trying to help others, but not helping yourself or giving time to yourself, you're going to hit that rock bottom. And I bet you know what I'm talking about. You probably know what that feels like. And this can be just a continuously like a vicious cycle, because we can give, and then get exhausted and retreat back, maybe isolating, feeling resentful, like not even wanting to see people. And slowly, because of taking like that forced break, our energy starts to get filled back up, and then boom, we're back in, so we give again, and that cycle just keeps happening. And I know that I was tired of doing that, and I know that you probably are too. It's not fun, and it also takes a lot of joy out of life, and really also the relationship with ourselves. It's harmful to ourselves. There's a concept in yoga called ahimsa. It's one of the yamas, an ethical practice in yoga, and ahimsa means non-harming. And by doing this pattern, we are harming ourselves. All right. And in the end, if we're feeling resentment and judging others because maybe we did something and there was a subtle expectation that it would be reciprocated and it's not, then we get judgmental, like all those just feelings, then our relationships with others aren't healthy either, or at least to where they could be. And so it's really important to start to pay attention to this and start to get to know this pattern, so that you can start to do things differently and consciously decide what you're going to say yes to, what you're going to say no to, so that you can keep that cup filled up. Maybe not to the brim, but when it gets halfway, then you're filling it back up, so that you don't get fully depleted. All right. And this is going to change too. There are going to be times in your life, depending on what's going on. Maybe after just simply thinking about this last year, coming off 2020, the pandemic and everything else, depending on where you live, there's been lots of other things in the political realm and social realms that have been challenging this year. And so if there's lots of these other external stressors happening in your life, it's not going to take a lot to be depleted. And so it's a dance. There's going to be times where you're going to be able to say yes to things more because of where you're at. And there's times where you might have to say no to most things unless it's directly taking care of you. And that's okay. Right. So I wanted to just take a moment to lean into guilt, because guilt tends to be a huge obstacle in being able to say no and keep that boundary to take care of ourselves, right? Because a lot of times we can maybe say no and then boom, you feel that guilt and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have. Is that person going to still like me? I'm a horrible person. I'm a horrible friend. Like, I'm going to lose my job because I didn't say yes to this. I mean, all that dialogue that goes along in our head. And most of it comes from guilt, self-doubt, and it's not true. It's just a story. It's a reaction. It's fear. So we are taught to avoid that, to escape it, to distract from it. But then it just sits there and it's still there in our bodies. What we need to do is to pay attention to it, to be willing to hold space for feeling that discomfort so we can get to know, hey, what's going on with guilt? So that we can then consciously decide, am I going to go with what guilt's saying? Or am I going to choose something different? Even if it feels awkward and weird because it's different. But at the heart, I truly feel like this is what I need to do for myself. Instead of letting guilt make those choices and decisions and running your life without you having any control over it. All right. So we'll just take I'm just going to do a really quick, just guided leaning into with guilt. So take a moment to get comfortable if you're not in a comfortable seat. And then when you are, I'm going to encourage you to close your eyes. We get a lot of data and sensory information from our eyes. So kind of shutting that off, or at least softening the eyes and gazing to the floor. And then let's first just start to bring awareness to our nostrils, to the breath. Just taking some conscious breaths, slowly and gently breathing in through the nose. And then slowly and gently exhaling through the nose. Just feeling the sensations of the breath, letting go of everything else. Feeling the movement of the belly, the lower back, the ribs, the upper back, upper chest. Good. And as you're here, just present with the breath, I want you to take a moment to connect to a time recently where there was guilt that came up from saying no to something or wanting to say no to something, and then guilt came up, so you ended up saying yes. So it might be, maybe something at work, saying no to a project, or leaving on time or early, asking for time off, maybe not allowing yourself to, go to like an exercise class or do something That's more with your body that feels good because maybe someone else asked for your help. Or maybe having free time, and when someone asks if you can help, even though you really know you need that free time just to relax, and you feel guilty because you have free time, so why can't you help? So just connecting with that time recently where you have felt guilty around taking care of yourself. I want you to connect with just the sensations. Where in your body does this guilt live? Where do you feel it? Where is it resonating from? Just notice it. There's no right or wrong in it. Just notice sensations in the body with guilt. And again, no need to change it or run from it. This is just a reaction. This isn't who you are. Just getting curious about that reaction in the body. Maybe noticing what guilt is saying. What are thoughts that are coming up with guilt? Just paying attention. If you were to write out what guilt was saying, just notice what that is. What are the things that it says? So again, no need to change it, just becoming aware of it. Getting curious about it. I'll be with it just a few more moments. And just notice what happens just by paying attention to it. Does it become more intense? Does it stay the same? Does it become less? Do the sensations in your body stay the same or do they change? Good. Then let's gently start to draw awareness back to the breath. Letting go of that memory. Let's take a nice breath in through the nose. And then release it. You just let it out through the mouth. Don't hold on to it. No need to exhale in a certain way. Just let it go. Let's do 2 more. Good. 1 more. Wonderful. And then if your eyes are closed, let's slowly open them. Good. All right. So that's just taking time. That's a practice of leaning into the emotion of guilt. There may be self-doubt, whatever there may be, but instead of running from it and feeling and letting that emotion make the choice for you, pausing to be with it. And so thinking about now, like going back to that memory now after being with guilt, what might you do with this data, this information that you just learned? Okay, and what would you consciously do for yourself? So it's just keeping that in mind. So just 3 more things I wanted to just to suggest as practices in meeting that behavior, that urge to please others, for people pleasing. So the first is start to commit to taking a pause anytime anyone asks you for something. Okay. It can be a short pause, so you can take a nice deep breath and just see how that feels, that question. It can be something as simple as saying, like, I need to think about that. Like, let me get back to you. Taking longer time to whether it's looking at the schedule, whether it's really checking in with yourself on, is this something I can say yes to or not? And where am I in my cup? So that goes into this. The second suggestion is checking in with yourself often about where is my energy level right now. Like if you, I know Brené Brown talked about this with something her and her husband do is it's I think it was it's a scale of 1 to 100 that they do kind of where their level is at, and if their levels equal 100 or above, like they're doing good. But if they're both depleted, like both like I'm at a 20 right now, I need your help, and then the other person's like, well, I'm a 30, like I can't help you. Um, Doing the same thing for ourselves. Where am I at? So you can do 1 to 100 or 1 to 10. Where is my energy level? And, if it's 50 or below, really consider like, no, I need to take care of myself. Okay. So checking in there, taking a pause, checking in with where your energy level is at. And then the last thing is getting in a daily routine of practicing a minimum of 5 minutes of just being with yourself, right? Just simply being with yourself, noticing things. It could be a guided meditation. It can be doing breath work. It could be holding like a yoga pose, a restorative yoga pose for 5 minutes. It could be setting a timer and just sitting outside and looking at nature for 5 minutes. Something to start doing every day, because that is another pause as well as a practice of going inward and checking in and developing more of a relationship with yourself and getting that practice that it's okay to take time for you and cultivating that relationship with yourself. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. I'd love if you have any questions, please let me know. And yeah, thanks and all the best. Namaste.